You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers, about hikers, for everybody.
This is the Hammock Hangers Podcast, where we hang out and talk about everything from hammocks and hammock camping to the group hangs from around the country. Hey everyone, welcome to the Hammock Hangers Podcast, where we unwind, relax, and delve into all things hammock related. Join us as we swing into the world of hammocks, exploring tips and tricks for setting up that perfect hang, sharing stories of outdoor adventures, and discovering the latest trends in hammock camping and relaxation. Whether you're a seasoned hammocker or new to the art of hanging, this podcast is your cozy corner to kick back, escape the hustle and bustle of everyday life, and soak in the soothing atmosphere of the hammock culture. Prepare to be inspired, educated, and entertained as we embrace the hammock lifestyle together. So grab your favorite hammock, find that perfect spot to hang, and let's embark on a hammock-filled journey that will leave you feeling refreshed, rejuvenated, and ready to take on the world. This is the Hammock Hangers Podcast, where every episode is a breath of fresh air. Let's get started.
Howdy, hangers. Welcome to the Hammock Hangers Podcast. And this week we are recording in special location of the 2024 Fall Sprawl. And this week we have a special guest with us. We have Matt Lawder here. Matt is a long distance hiker, and he is the designer and creator of Mountain Made Gear. His trail's name is Mountain Man. So Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me again.
Yes, this is like attempt number 3.
Let's see how this round goes, how far we get into it. But yet again,
without technical difficulties.
I am psyched to be here. This time I'm a little less nervous, so maybe it'll go better.
It's all fine. It's all fine.
So yeah.
So Matt, tell us about where you're from and how did you get into just camping in general?
So I am from Attala, which is a small town outside of Gadsden in northeast Alabama.
Okay.
Really I've just grown up being outdoors and just being outdoors. Oh yeah, that's better. Just being outdoors and just camping here and there, but pretty much just like being out, enjoying being outside. And then when the world of actually the spending, it was never really about camping at first for me. It was more about just going out and just being out there.
Just connecting with nature.
Yeah, just being away from everything else and just being by yourself with your thoughts. You know, that's another reason I guess I got into hiking too, because it's a lot of the same.
Right.
So was camping something that you discovered before hiking, or did they just kind of come in tangent with each other?
Well, the first time I really hammock camped, it was when I was hiking. And that's when I started bottom of the barrel, didn't know anything. And so I was the Walmart hammock with the, cheap Amazon, whatever, $20 tarps. But, I realized the Pinhoti Trail was so close to my house, and I was like, I want to go do some big trails, but I can go do that first. I can go have fun there. And that hike was a terrible fail. My shoes fell apart. I had the worst backpack to carry, cheap stuff that was very uncomfortable, but I enjoyed it still.
Sure.
So that's when I decided to really dig in and start seeing what there was, and I was completely shocked to know that even the hammock world was so big, because I didn't know it was this. Like I said, I had a Walmart hammock, and I was thinking, okay, well, what else is there? And I really got into seeing how big the world was, and kind of just fell into it.
Gotcha. So the Pinhoti Trail was really your first major hike that I guess you would say you would claim?
Well, not really, because that first trip was only 2 days.
Okay.
Because I didn't plan for it. I didn't know what I was doing really. It was just, hey, there's a trail. Let's throw some stuff in a army metal heavy rucksack.
Right.
And let's go walk out there and see what it is. And like I said, I was carrying canned food and like stuff that was not comfortable.
All the wrong stuff.
Yeah. The boots I had that I thought, oh yeah, these will work, fell apart on the, like halfway through day 2. So
Nice.
like I was clapping the sole like all the way into this campground, and I got to this campground and there was no service, no way to reach anybody, and I was like, I can't keep going. So luckily there was a ranger attendant, whatever they were in that campground, and he drove all the way out. He said, I can't drive you, but I can go call for you. So he drove all the way out to service, called my mom, which showed up the next morning to pick me up.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, it was miserable.
But you
was
stayed
so
with
miserable.
it after that.
Yeah, I learned a lot, and I learned my lessons.
So even though like the trip, I guess you would say overall was a technical failure, it wasn't enough to discourage you from continuing to explore the hobby.
No, that's when I realized I actually need to research stuff.
Do a little more
I didn't even
research,
have
dive a little
guides for
deeper.
it. I just went out there with like a paper print off of mile marker. This is a water. I didn't know what mile I was at. I never knew. You know. But,
Have you gone back to the Pinhoti Trail?
I have done some stuff there.
Okay.
I'm considering hiking it this coming season.
Do you want to complete through hike of it?
Yeah, because
Okay.
I had planned originally. I had planned next year because I don't have a lot of time because I'm trying to get into the business, into the hangs, and
Gotcha.
really grow in the hammock stuff. So I was going to do a 100-day challenge of the AT next year, but then with all the destruction and devastation and all the problems there, it's
So you were thinking about doing an FKT?
no, not
Okay,
FKT,
okay.
just 100 days.
Okay.
So it would have
Okay.
been,
See how far you get in 100 days.
no, just to complete it in 100 days.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you're looking at 26 miles average a day. So it's not doable, but it's definitely would be a challenge because the last time I was on the AT, I only did 1,200, maybe 1,500 miles of it.
Okay.
I skipped. When they say the vortex on in some hostels is bad, I spent 3 months in Gorham, New Hampshire, at a hostel called Rattle River Lodge.
Okay.
Best experience.
That's one
of my
right
life.
off the trail, I think, isn't
That
it?
is.
I was in
it's
Gorham
on.
this summer, actually.
Now it is called Quantum Vortex.
Okay.
The year after it was after I worked there, the guy sold it, and it's been changed hands a little bit. But it's when you're coming.
What year was that?
I was there in 21.
Okay.
So
I wonder if there's a new one because I don't even remember.
It's
I think.
it's the big white house where you coming north out of the Whites. When you finish the Whites and you finish the Wildcats,
Yeah.
and you walk down the road,
You take a left onto the
you
road.
take a left on the
It's
road,
down on the left.
and then when you get ready to take that right to go down and across the dam to continue,
Uh-huh.
it's the big white house
On the left.
on the left. Right
Okay.
there. And it's a great place. I plan on going back and seeing them.
Yeah.
But it's still some of the same guys there that were there when I was there.
Right.
So I mean, it's just a big family. So I really
Okay.
look forward to going and seeing people I met on my first hike again.
Now, when you say the vortex, what do you mean by that?
Hard to leave.
Yeah,
Hard to leave.
It just
Oh,
sucks you in. You just fall right in. It really, like, the thing that got me was I did a slack pack of the Wildcats, and that was my longest section. It was, I think it's 20. See, I'm not exactly sure. It's like
Yeah, I can't
20
remember how
something.
long it is.
I don't think it's 26, but I think it's like 23 or it's mid 20-mile section, and it's in the white, like coming out of the Whites. It's some horrible climbs, and that's the longest I had done. And at the time, I had some serious chafing, which is a whole nother story. And I thought I could do this, so it took me almost, I think it was about 12 hours.
Yeah.
I got to the hostel that night at like 8 o'clock. and everybody was just sitting around chilling out, and I just was dead tired. The crew that I hiked it with had already left because they got there way before I did.
Right.
They loaded up and we got food. So I'm sitting in this chair just beat to death, and the owner walks out with this huge tray of just all kind of assorted barbecue meats.
Awesome.
And I'm like, I love this place. So I decided to stay there to rest up and heal. And then after that, I stayed around just to, help out, do little odd and end things because, like little handyman, building some shelves or, just different small little tasks just to hang out, and met tons of hikers and a lot that I actually saw again on the PCT year before last.
Gotcha.
So it's just crazy how the trail community just here everywhere.
So you've hiked a lot a little bit on the Pinhoti, the AT and the PCT as well, and you've done all of this in a hammock.
Yes.
I mean, for the most part.
Yes. Okay, so the AT, I had my first attempt of a DIY. It was 11-foot, just Joann's ripstop fabric, because I didn't know that there were the technical fabrics and things at that time. So I got this hammock, and then I bought one of the big bug room screen rooms and cut that up to make the first version of what my bug net is now.
Okay.
And I hiked with it. And I did that without an underquilt, which I learned my lesson and I'll never do again.
Ooh.
I did that with like inflatable, of all things, it was the Climate inflatable pad, which is, everybody says it's a high rating and it's like nothing. It's like sleeping on a pool float. But that was an experience. So yeah. And then on the PCT was my first prototype of what I'm working towards to have as a simple, clean, nothing, not a lot of moving parts, just very easy to manage. Not a lot of learning curve, especially if you already know how to hang it. And that one survived. I had one failure on it, which I ripped out my knotty mod.
Okay.
But yet again, it was learning experience. Now it's reinforced, so that ain't gonna happen again. But and the AT was easy for hammocks. There were a few times when it was really cold that I would bundle up with everybody in the shelter, just because it was that cold, and I was doing it with a sleeping pad.
Right.
Miserable. Didn't want to deal with that.
I'd always bundle up in the shelters whenever I knew it was going to be raining that night.
Yeah.
Just so I didn't have to pack up wet the next morning. But
well, I did Sobo that year.
Okay.
So by the time I got down south, I actually hiked through the Smokies the week before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So it was nice and chilly coming through there, and even further south. So there was several nights that we all huddled up in the shelters for warmth.
Yeah. So when did you do the PCT?
The PCT I did in 23.
Okay. How much of it did you do?
I did 2,000 miles on it.
Okay.
It was in 23 was the year of this, like the high snow. It was like 300% snow load. And so I got to just before Kennedy Meadows, and I headed up north to skip the Sierra. By the time I'd gotten there, it was like super, like you could go, but it was very likely for like things like snow bridges to fail.
Right.
There was already major bridges that had washed away. So I decided to head up and finish up to Canada.
Okay.
And after I did that, I had my funnest experience on trail, which was hitchhiking from the Canadian border all the way back to Bishop, California.
Oh, wow.
Never once. There was one time we took a train, but that was because the town we got to, we were going to a certain town which another hiker friend lived in to meet on the way down for dinner and a place to stay. It took us like 4 days to do it, but it was awesome. I've lost track of thought what I was talking about before.
I think that's just really cool. Just the idea of traveling through hitchhiking. When we were coming back from Denmark, We got stopped at a Chicago O'Hare, which was a horrible, miserable experience. However, there was a gentleman waiting in the line with us that I overheard his conversation. He had completely hitchhiked through the entire continent of Australia, and he had done a lot of hitchhiking in the U.S. as well as Europe as well. And I just find that kind of just a fascinating way to travel. How do you think? I guess a lot of people just assume that, nobody's going to pick up crazy people, or it's a very dangerous way to travel. But how was that overall experience hitchhiking, going from basically one top part of the country all the way down to the bottom?
Well, it was okay when you were near a town that knew the trail was there, because it amazes me that something that monumental, like a trail, like a 2,600-mile trail or whatever, can be there, and people like 30 minutes away from it don't even realize it exists.
Mm-hmm.
Even some of the trail towns you go in and meet people, they don't know.
They don't know nothing about it.
They're
Yeah,
like,
you catch that on the AT too sometimes.
Yeah,
which I think is funny. There was some law enforcement that had no idea about the AT going through their town.
That kind of baffles me a little bit too. I mean, I get like people, because fair warning, like I went to college, and where my soul still calls home, of Emory and Abingdon, Virginia. Like I played guitar at the old mill in Damascus, lived there for 5 years, had no idea about trail disc, had no idea about the AT. Now, granted, hiking and stuff wasn't even on my radar at that stage in life, but still, like the AT being the longest trail on our side of the country, you know, I even knew about the Creeper Trail before I knew really about the AT.
Right.
That's you're like, once a year, all these smelly, dirty people just come to town. Like, what's going on here?
Right.
Hobo convention.
I mean, pretty much.
So you said it took like 4 days. So how long, when you would hitchhike with somebody, what's on average that you would be with that person?
I think the longest single ride might have been 6 to 8 hours or something. It was a full day's ride.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He brought us from, I can't remember what town it was in Washington, but we came all the way down from Washington and he brought us all the way down through Cascade Locks and all the way to Seattle.
Okay.
Like, and it was a miracle that we got picked up by him, because where we were was a horrible spot.
Yeah.
But it was, and I've noticed the van life people are super into picking up hitchhikers, which I'm not sure if that's a good thing.
A lot of them, I think, used to be hitchhikers.
Yeah.
Or not hitchhikers, but hikers.
Yeah.
As well. Because I know one of my trail sisters, that's what she does now. She just goes around in different, in the van to different places and everything. So I think a lot of them are previous hikers and everything. So they know.
They understand the
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. Was there ever any time or any of the hitches that you got that made you feel uncomfortable with a person?
I got one for you. Okay.
I used to have 2 kidneys now for a 30-minute drive, and now I just have
woke
one.
up like hundreds of miles away from where I was supposed to be. And
We weren't in California anymore.
Pants on. But no, like, we got dropped off at an intersection at and I don't remember where the town is again. Like, at some of these points, it all just merges
It all
together.
runs together.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was just this intersection, and and when I say we, it's I think y'all met her last year at HangCon. The British chick, Charlotte.
Yes.
Fake
Yes.
news.
Yeah.
Y'all
Yeah.
met
Yeah.
her.
Yep.
When I say we, that's what I'm talking about. It's
Okay.
me and Fake News. We
Okay.
did most of the trail north of the Sierras together. But on the way back, we got picked up on this corner. It was super dark. We were standing there with headlights pointing at our sign, trying to get a pickup, a ride. We were about to climb in the ditch, set up her tent, and just camp in the ditch on the side of the road.
Right.
When this white, like Ford Econoline van with no windows in the back. Like,
Did they pull up offering
Pulls up.
candy?
pulls up. No, there wasn't any free candy. It was a Hispanic guy, and he didn't speak any English, so we had to show him on the map where we wanted to go. And he's like, "Oh yeah, okay." And we get in. We both get in the back, and in the back of this van, there's like the partition wall, but it's not the ones with the door. It's just a solid metal wall with holes poked in the top. And as we start to take off, all the doors lock. So at that moment, I pulled out my phone while I still had service. I turned on my location. I was like, "Mama, you better be tracking me for this, like, the next hour. Because I don't know what's going to happen, but keep an eye on me." And luckily, he dropped us off, like, within walking distance of the Trail Angel we were going to.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, you know.
You just got some
Super
bad
creepy.
vibes.
Yeah, well,
I mean, it's dark. We don't know where we're going.
It's dark. You're getting into a vehicle with somebody that you have there's a language barrier with. You're in the back of the vehicle.
With no way out.
No way out, and the door's locked. Yeah, that can make
And
me
it's
feel
cleaning
pretty
supplies.
uncomfortable
And it's
too.
like 4 buffer and like cleaning supplies in the back of this van. So
and
he's ready to clean
like
up.
8 5-gallon buckets of lime.
I don't know what was in the buckets, but there were a few buckets.
So did you have to do any hitchhiking when you did the AT?
Just the like little like from trail to town kind
Okay.
of stuff. I had one, my most memorable. Well, I don't know. It's kind of hard to say which one on the AT was my most memorable. But the first one I think of, and it's because what they said when they pulled up. I was walking out of Rangeley, Maine,
Okay.
walking back to trail, and I was not hiking up the road with my headlamp going, and a car comes by, and then just a minute later, they had turned around and came back, and they pulled up beside me with the window down looking, and they's like, I thought it was a one-eyed moose or something walking down the side of the road. I'm like, okay, can you give me a ride? And then, sure, they took me up the trail, and then the next town down, I went to get a burger, and the guy that picked me up was the bartender at the restaurant, and he gave us like free drinks.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
Oh, nice.
It was
So, the first time you ever hitchhiked, were you apprehensive about even hitchhiking, or was it no big deal? Because I know with me, whenever I started to do the AT, I was like, okay, I'm not going to hitchhike. You know, I don't want to be stuck in a car with a crazy person, blah, 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 and all this. But it didn't take long before I had to go into a town, and that town was, like 3 or 4 miles away, which is doable to hike. But after you've been hiking all day, it's
not
like,
trail miles, man.
yeah,
You don't hike when it's not trail
exactly,
miles.
exactly. So it didn't take long for me to throw my thumb out.
No
and
shame.
None.
Like-
None.
Yeah, we when we were coming back from our main trip this summer, we made a short little jaunt in Shenandoah, and we were going somewhere, and there were some hitchhikers that were looking for a ride, to come down or whatever. And so I was kind of like, oh, this is a big group, just driving them into town, something kind of I want to do. As you can imagine, a particular individual that lives in my household was like so spazzed out about it that, needless to say, those hitchhikers did not get a ride from me because she was like super worried. But
It was just funny because usually the hikers are the ones that you really need to worry about the least.
Yeah, if the only thing they're gonna mess up is your nostrils.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You might smell them in the car for a week.
Now, if you see a hiker in jeans or something like that, avoid them. They're not really hikers. So,
Gotcha. So how would you say like your gear developed over your time, and did you have any major changes in gear going from, let's say, the AT to the PCT? Because from what little experience I have of the two, I know that they are very different trails.
Yeah. Well, like I said, on the AT, I roughed it out with a pad. PCT, I knew better, so I definitely quilted it up.
right.
That was my first set of synthetic. I made a set of 20-degree synthetic quilts for that trip, which worked perfectly. Like, I didn't really need anything other than that. There were a couple times where it would get a little chilly, but you tough it out. That's what you're out there for.
Right.
You're not going to be comfortable every night when you're doing a hike like that. But other than, like I said, I did the research then into the fabrics and things like that. So my first, and it was not fun. My first real big project was a seal poly membrane winter tarp.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And to not have really worked with those kind of materials and that slick stuff, like to be sewing a freaking flat filled French seam across all of this fabric,
Slipping all over the place,
going everywhere. I'm embarrassed to show that tarp because those seams are like a windy mountain road going down that thing.
Yeah, I have made one tarp, and hats off to our tarp makers, because a tarp and a quilt is two pieces of gear that every time, I don't care what it is, I will happily give someone else my money to do, because I remember like losing my religion working with that really slick material. And you know, I don't have a big industrial sewing machine or anything. I had like a Walmart brother thing that I stole from my wife, that I was kind of working with, so it was a pain in the butt. And I just said from that point on, nope, I will always buy tarps. So I definitely feel your pain as far as that goes.
Well, I've learned lessons and I've gotten better at it. My ridge lines are much better now. I use that seam a lot more as well now, because my bug nets that are pieced together also have that as the ridge line. Just because it's stronger, it can take the stretch more than just a rolled hem or something on that bug netting. But I find, honestly, the like you said, the tarps and quilts, I find the only part of doing quilts, down quilts that is the stuffing.
Yeah.
The sewing is not really that hard. It's a lot of pre-work if you're new to doing it, because it helps you like mark out some way on the fabric to make sure baffles line up right. It's a lot of tedious stuff, but I found it's not really, that part is very kind of intermediate, work.
Okay.
Synthetic quilts, of course, they're really simple.
Yeah.
And there's tons of ways you can do those.
There's no baffles in synthetic.
No,
right?
it's just just layer it all together and stitch around the whole thing,
right?
And you've got a quilt. It's now they're really heavy, but beginner friendly, super easy to make.
Yeah.
Work really well if you're doing this stuff, car camping, things like that. I know the unicorn fur is amazing, but I mean, really, they're easy, they're cheap to make.
Sure.
I honestly like my synthetic stuff, but now that I'm actually really shaving weight, I'm going into doing quilts, but also because I know when I start quilts, I'm going to be working on quilts for a good 6 to 12 months.
Right.
So I can get everything, because I've got some wheels turning about some fancy outer shell quilts that I want to make with actual small sewn quilt squares to make like murals and photos on.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Well, I should mention also, like, I don't just sew this stuff for a living. Like, my mom back home, her and a friend of hers have a quilt embroidery shop.
Okay.
So I actually, when I'm not working on hammock stuff or my gear things, I am actually sitting at a sewing machine every day, sewing like quilt tops and things like that, and like the hats and things. I do all this. Like I've actually made this one, like revamped the designs a little bit. And now I've got my, like I said, I'm just starting. So I just finally got a logo that I really I like.
Right.
And it's crazy when you start something like even that kind of thing takes so much time and like just effort to deal with it.
Right.
You always have like something small and meticulous that you never thought that's where my stumbling block is.
Yeah, social media. And I've got to build a website now. So, and yeah, I'm not the social media for the amount of time that I waste scrolling on it. You would think I would actually be better at it, but it's like I'll take a picture and hold on to it for a week and be like, I really should have posted that, and then I forget about it.
I think that's why with the social media side of like HangCon and even the podcast, I gave that to AJ. It's like, okay, you take care of the social media stuff. I've got all the other stuff.
And I will happily let you do the website. I am not a web person at all. I have no problem.
It's a lot. Like, between like editing things, keeping everything going on that side, and then still trying to promote and like keep interaction with everything else.
Well, just keeping the websites updated.
Oh yeah,
and everything. I mean, it's not a one and done type thing.
No.
You got to keep it all up to date and running properly and everything else. And so AJ he gets away pretty easily.
I think like one of the things that's hard for like the social media, and especially for if you're just like one person, like with me and Paul, we're a team, but if you're an individual, I know, for example, Facebook, sometime late last year, they changed their business suite so you could only schedule post 30 days out. It used to be 90 days. And that would give me like, all right, I can sit down for 2 or 3 days and I can bang out a lot of posts that are going to cover the next 3 months. And then it's set and done. Now to only do it a month at a time, you're like, oh, well, that's that. But sometimes, life happens. And, when you're limited to 1 month, and for me, my ADHD kicks in and
that month lapses and you're like, uh-oh.
I was like, oh crap, I've got to, put something out, or I've got to update this. And I would love to see like our Instagram get a little bit more love, but again, like it's that taking pictures. And I think that's one of the reasons like we haven't branched out a lot more into like the video space, is because, the video space is a lot of production value, even outside of, what we do with a podcast. So,
well, the video, I do the editing on that as well.
Yeah.
And so it's like podcast editing, video editing, and then keeping up the website. And
I'm sure you get tired of hearing his voice, don't you?
Yeah, there's a lot of times. Look, he's actually being good today. Usually, a lot of times, whenever it's just me and him doing an episode together, I think he tries his best to see how much noise and stuff he can make, because he'll the chips and the drinks and he makes me work.
I'm going to find an acorn here, and I'm just going to start bouncing it on this table.
I will find a hickory nut and start bouncing off your head.
It's okay. We all still love you.
So let's talk about your gear as well. So you're making like a package, pretty much, and you have a hammock and a bug net that I really kind of want to talk about, specifically the bug net, and your hammock suspension as well, and tarp ridgeline. Okay.
So as a full package, like as far as like you talking about the ridgeline and the tie outs and things like that, the special thing with my cordage attachments and all that on my kits that I use myself, I can do other things, but I really like it's air quotes knotless, for the non-viewers here,
right?
But it's a simple slip knot, no hardware. It's the only thing. It's the only technical knot you have to know, because it covers everything from your Beckett hitch for your actual suspension. It covers your lock offs for the ridge lines, the tie outs. All of that is either a simple soft link, which is button knots, and that one half hitch, slippery half hitch, which is super. I say it's super simple. I know like there are people that still have problems even with figuring out which way that goes, but I feel like if you don't have to learn this for this and which way to spin this around the hook here, like it's so much simpler, because once you learn it, it's muscle memory. You can do it in the dark.
Yeah, we did an episode just over the summer where I did not necessarily specifically by choice, but I chose to see how much hardware free I could go if I really needed to, and to rely on the knots. And I think a lot of people do get super intimidated when just by saying knots, because they're just assuming like, hey, you need to learn a diamond knot for this particular thing, and you're like, oh, well, a diamond knot, and you watch this video and it's this super complicated thing. But
there's plenty of us out there. You can just message us on whatever platform, and we'll be sure to get you a nice system. You ain't got a tile.
But the good thing, like for a lot of these things, like when you say a Beckett hitch, it really is just like 1, 2, 3, done. Mm-hmm. Like there is no looping, there's no like tying extra knots. You can almost do it with one hand.
It's simpler than a marlin spike.
Yes, 100%.
Because of that marlin spike, if you have to make sure you're on the knot, not the toggle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's something you have to worry about with the Beckett. It's just simple. As long as you can see that loop coming out, you're good.
Yeah.
And I'm probably going to be getting with Trevor with Hanging High to do a different continuous loop on mine, to where I'll start having the pull tabs.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll obviously see that sticking out, and it helps break.
Right.
To break
100%.
So it's real simple. But like you were saying, the bug net.
Yes.
So, and when I started making this thing, I thought, man, hadn't really seen. I did see one person on YouTube from years back, and it was another hiker, Bone. Oh man, I want to say Wishbone or
I think I know the exact video that you're talking about.
It's a guy. It's a couple, or a guy and a girl. I'm not sure if they're a couple, but they made one, and I saw the idea, and I was like, I really like that, but I don't like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm just gonna make mine, and let's see how I like it best. So that's where my PCT net came along, and I'll tell you about what it is, and then we'll go into what it is now. But it's a kind of a blend between a sock and a bottom entry net.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be deployed on and off, whether you have quilts on, there's nothing that can hinder it. So you have an entire open end that you can pull over, have it off, not need it, hang out in the hammock, looking at the trees, doing what you want to do. And at night, if bugs pick up or if it gets cold, you can easily just slide it right over the top. And there's a couple snaps that close it up. And when you lay in it, it seals it off, and it's a perfect cocoon. And in the future, there are styles that I'll be making to be announced, but it's a winter sock. It's in the same style.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So that's going to be my next project, like my next gear piece, item, product. That's the word.
Gotcha.
So that'll be my next product that I'll have in kind of, there's another word I'm thinking about now, development. That one was a little bit easier. But yeah, that's my next product that's going to be in development, is that. But what now?
I think like I remember seeing back in my early days of kind of doing my own gear and doing kind of the Franke style bug nets, which I liked. And I know exactly the video that you're talking. It is an old YouTube video. And I remember saying, hey, I think this would really be a good thing, but I never really put something together. What I do love a Franke style bug net for a lot of different reasons. I think for a gathered in, when you have an attached bug net, sometimes you lose a little bit of that slack on the edges of your hammock that add to the comfort, I think, of a hammock. With the attached bug net, it seems sometimes it just unnecessarily brings up the side of the hammock, so
it almost squeezes.
Yeah, it squeezes a little bit. Sometimes you get like some ankle pressure that's just kind of weird.
Well, that's kind of one of the reasons why I did that. But my main reason was removing points of failure, and that zipper. That's a major failure point. I mean, it's great if you're not going to be on trail for 6 months at a time.
Right.
Like if you're just going out for a week, if the zipper pops, you can deal with it. But if you're out there for that kind of time period, all that movement, all that stuff, and they can easily pop and pull loose. Yeah. So that was my thing. Like I was saying, the hardware, the only pieces of plastic on that entire setup are 2 cam snaps, and with the hammock and the bug net, it's 2, 4, 6 cord locks.
Okay.
That's the only pieces of plastic on that entire thing. And if one of them fail, you can always tie them together,
Right.
and make it work. But,
One thing that I think is being in Florida, which for us you don't have an underquilt or you don't have a bug net on ever. You constantly have to leave it on. But what I really do like about yours is the ability to move it off to the side when you don't need it, when you need that little extra airflow, and to the deploy back over to the other side. So that's one of the biggest cruxes for me with kind of a cinch bottom bug net, whether it be a Franke style or one with a zipper or one with shock cord. Like once it's on, it's on. Like, so if you're hanging at the beach and you just want a little bit more airflow, you almost really have to take the whole thing off.
On mine as well, being the snap at the top, if you're laying in it and you want to vent your head, all you've got to do is reach up and grab the ridgeline and snap, and it'll pop that snap loose. And then laying in it, you can just pull it off over your head and vent above you.
Gotcha.
Since that's why I didn't go with my original one was like a loop around a cord lock where it really tied it on there tight. So this time I went with that for one, in case for any reason it did stretch past the limit, it would pop it.
Right.
But also for that ease of just being able to grab it and snatch it.
Okay.
And then you can just pull it off of you. You would, unless you can reach, you had to get out to re-snap it. But if you're venting it or taking it off anyway, you can pull it a good ways down, because even with somebody laying in it, it still has enough movement, especially if you have, depending on the way, because there's several ways you can layer it, either between the hammock body and the underquilt or under the underquilt entirely. It
Gotcha.
really depends on what size quilts you have and like your needs of that moment.
Okay.
It's a lot of other stuff to go into, but even with somebody laying in it, you can just slide it
Okay.
off and on. There's nothing really to resist it, because it's just that
It's completely
that
open
netting,
at that
yeah.
one end too.
Like
So
there's absolutely nothing to stop it. The most you might do is like a cord lock might catch if you're pulling it between the body of the hammock and the underquilt. But it's a cord lock. It's not going to hurt anything.
right.
Right.
But that's my thing. It was just trying to be as simple and lightweight. But there are other lighter hammocks out there.
Lighter's not always better.
No, because you've got to find the compromise. Like how
Right.
light can it be, but still give me enough comfort to give me rest.
Right.
Because
If you're trying to go so light that you're not getting good sleep, good rest, then you're defeating the purpose.
Yeah. Exactly.
So there's got to be that happy medium,
Yeah.
And I want to go. I don't want to be toting 60, 70 pounds on my back.
Yeah, but
I'm not gonna
a 1 pound hammock with everything you need in the stuff stack.
Right. I'm not gonna try
That's
and get it
nothing.
down to the point that I'm carrying 5 pounds, but I'm gonna be miserable whenever I'm out there.
Yeah.
I am not using a 3/4 length underquilt. I will die on that hill.
I did when my synthetic one, I will say, is 3/4, but that was for me the sacrifice between the heavier insulation and because it was a 20-degree synthetic. So I was like, I can always just curl up in a ball if it's really cold, and it worked. I've used it still a lot, but Barry brought me some fancy ones for the thing, so I'm getting to use some fancy hammock gear quilts at this one. But it's nice, but it's a big difference not having the weight of a synthetic, because it's almost a weighted blanket when you have a synthetic top quilt compared to that down. It's like there's nothing there,
Right.
but it's something I'm getting used to. But I really, I like having him around to
Right.
test stuff with.
Speaking of Barry, I kind of want to talk about another piece of gear that you have used quite a bit that we haven't talked with a lot of people on the channel that use them. I have them, but I've never actually used them. I want to say when you did your PCT hike, you used the Tensa trekking trees.
No.
Oh, okay.
I did not use them on that hike, but that is the hike that made me really look into them.
Okay.
Mainly, the main reason I really didn't use them on the hike was because, you know how they have this available, unavailable, like they have the periods where they release, and leading up to my hike was totally unavailable. So I didn't have a chance to get one. And I couldn't sweet talk him into letting me borrow one. But I probably shouldn't say that. Don't get mad, Todd. But yeah, I would have loved to have the single one at least, because I've learned the double pole setup is great. If you're somewhere that there's absolutely nothing, or you want to set up in an open field or somewhere.
Right.
But for the hiking world, I've noticed that the single pole is so much more versatile because it doesn't take, one anchor point. That could be a tree, that could be a rock, that could be anything.
Right.
Anything you can tie one strap to and you can hang up. So, and also I find that hanging on one pole plus another object is better because you can
adjust.
You can get some height out of it, because when you're on the poles, you're really low. I don't mind hanging low, but you're like sitting in this chair here, low to the ground. So it can be a little uncomfortable. But yeah, I really do enjoy them. And he likes me coming to the shows with him because they really get a good showing and testing and a lot of attention that way.
Gotcha. So, what's your outside of product development and that you're doing, growing your business? What's your next big kind of adventure?
Okay, so I mentioned was that on this recording or the last one where I was talking about doing the 100 days, or was that before? Okay, so
I think it was this one, but
okay,
maybe
if I didn't mention, I'll mention again.
Yes,
I was planning next year to do the 100-day challenge for the AT, to do the AT and 100 completion in 100 days. But since the devastation, all the disaster, I've decided to postpone that, and so now I'm looking for the next season.
Okay,
I'm looking at potential three different short hikes. So I'm looking at Sheltoe Trace.
Okay,
I'm looking at the Long Trail. And I'm trying to decide on a third one. I really don't want to do the Pinhoti yet because, I feel like doing one that's that close to home. I should do it. I could do it.
Same thing with the Florida Trail.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of the last trails that I do.
It's there,
Yeah.
And I know I'm going to do it eventually because when I come back to do the ECT, when I do my true triple crown, because like I said, I only had 2,000 on the PCT and 12 to 15. I think it was 12 on the PCT and 300 more on the BMT to get home.
Okay.
But yeah. So I'm gonna go back and do the complete hike, but I also want to do my Triple Crown. The hikes I consider for my Triple Crown as all border to border. So I'll start at Key West at the southern.
Okay. And
walk all the way up to the Canada border.
Okay.
Are they hollering for food?
Possibly.
I think everybody was bringing in stuff starting at 6:00, and then they were setting us up for dinner at 6:30.
Sorry, I heard screaming. I was like,
yeah, if you haven't picked up, guys, we have a little bit of background noise. We are at this event, and we thought we had found a very quiet corner. Sometimes it has been, sometimes it hasn't.
Yeah.
So just to kind of continue on going on, so I've got some random questions for you. Now, you have done a lot of hiking and a lot of traveling. Where do you think that is what's on your bucket list? Like if you could travel, not just here in the United States, but if you could go and camp or travel anywhere in the world, where would that be?
I would say Scotland, but Charlotte's going to get pissed off at me for that one. So
that's one of my bucket lists.
Yeah, that's definitely on my bucket list
I don't
as well.
know. The way I see it is there's so much here to do.
There is.
That I really hadn't even thought too much of international, like too much, because my goal is to be not quite the same, but my goal is like to be like the next Nimble Wheel and just hike all the trails and do all the recreational trails in America before I don't know if he's been overseas. He probably has.
I don't know. I don't know if he has or not.
But that's kind of my thing. I would love to hike all the national scenic trails,
Right.
recreational trails in America, and just kind of fill in that map everywhere.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'd like to do some. I look forward to doing the CDT
Yeah.
because I had a little taste of some alpine snow, mountainous kind of iffy conditions on San Jacinto when I did that, and then even just seeing some of the mountains that I did see in the Sierra when I did Kearsarge and Mount Whitney, which was a whole nother experience. I found out what elevation sickness feels like on Mount Whitney, and I did not enjoy it.
Right.
So I'm glad I'll never be at that height again for a while. But yeah, I want to see our country, like just see everything because I've grown up in the Southeast.
Right.
You know, there's not much in the way of mountains here, much like definitely not for y'all. I mean, the biggest mountain y'all got is like a dirt hill behind the Dollar General they just built.
The biggest mountains we have is when you come across a landfill that they've piled up for a while.
That's
Yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah,
So,
AKA the new Dollar General.
now, with that said, and I don't want you to think too much on this because I'm sure that you could rack your brain forever on this. In your adventure, if you could say your top 3 favorite places that you've been or just wow moments on trail, where would they be?
Mount Washington in the Whites. Although I climbed it twice and didn't get to see a view either time, so that was upsetting. But it was still beautiful up there. Whitney,
Even
view.
through
all of it, it's
sickness?
still. I mean, there's beauty in pain. That's what I
Right.
always
That is
on trail.
true.
That's what there's beauty everywhere. It
That
might
is
be
true.
especially on the AT. It's going to be so many nasty, foggy, ugly mornings, but you still just look around and just look and pay attention, and you'll see animals run into the woods. You'll see all
remember-
this small beauty around you.
Yep.
But you just have to open your eyes and look at it.
I remember pretty much all of the good, and only a few of the bad
Yeah.
from being out there.
Gotcha.
Let's see, what would 3 be? Yeah, although, wait, how do you pronounce the new name for Klingman's?
What do you mean the new name? Stingman's no.
No, they
No,
renamed
they've
Klingman's,
renamed.
though. It's
They've returned it.
Kaluka
They've returned it to its Native American
Mulberry
name.
Place. Is what
Really?
It means.
So it's no longer Klingman's Dome?
Nope. They've given that. Yeah, it translate. If I'm not mistaken, and this could be a hot topic, I could say it all wrong. But I'm pretty sure it translates to Mulberry Place, but I can't pronounce it. It's like
I have no idea then. I'm gonna have to look that up.
W. I don't remember, but that one was a pretty cool one for me, in the experience of just like when we climbed it that morning. Like that was the coldest it's been for me on trail ever.
Oh, yeah?
Like I was
Okay.
icicles in the mustache, like icicles hanging on all the way around like Klingman's. The
Right.
trees were frozen, the rivers flowing. When I say rivers, I mean the trail
Right.
flowing through Smokies was a river of ice. It was miserable, but it was so beautiful.
Yeah.
It was just that's probably that one. That's the one that comes to mind again. So that
Okay.
one, I'd say that.
Gotcha.
All the high points: Washington, Klingman, and Whitney.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Well, Matt, it's been a absolute pleasure
You're
having
not
you
going
on
to
the
ask your
podcast.
favorite question?
Oh, which one is my favorite question?
Really?
I'll let you ask it.
He's got food on the mind.
What is your all-time favorite Christmas movie?
National Lampoon's
Yes!
Vacation.
Okay.
Yes.
He used to
That
ask
is
that
the
one
only
all the
right
time.
answer.
I don't know why.
So we have been given the text that dinner is going to be served in 10 minutes. Matt,
You got 10 minutes out of that?
I appreciate
10 minutes out of what? That was 10 minutes. That's a 10-minute alarm.
Well, I
I don't know what
I
it
did
was.
get a text
Somehow
from
he got-
Heather saying
From
that
Tether?
from Tether,
Tether.
yes.
Tether?
Come tether.
She probably could have whispered it from the other side of camp, and I would have heard her.
That might have been her, not the loudspeaker a while ago.
We love you,
We love
Heather.
you, Heather.
So, Matt, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast and giving us a little bit of your time. I'm really excited to see where you're going as far as your company go. I'm really excited to hear about the adventures that you have in. And please keep that majestic beard that you've got going.
Oh,
it is pretty incredible.
Like, it's growing back.
Like it is.
I had to do a full reset, and I've had it down to having a 6-inch braided ponytail hanging off my chin. So it's definitely coming back. Like I feel like half a mountain man without it.
Well, we appreciate you. So where can people find you on social media and online?
So currently it's only Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
Like I said, one of my projects for this winter is to try to get a website set up, but it's Mountain Made Gear on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
So it's pretty simple.
Awesome. Good deal.
Right. I'll put those links in the show notes.
All right.
So everybody can just either click on them if they're.
And if you're interested, I do like the way my stuff works is if you're interested, message me, and we can discuss what you need, what your goals are, what
Okay.
really custom built when you get it. Like we can go through whatever options, colors, and
Right.
all the different
That's how Jason likes to do it
gadgets.
too.
Yeah.
So
And so you're also going to be at HangCon
Yes.
this year, so people can find
Come check 'em
Matt
out and
at HangCon.
lay
So,
in the hammocks and enjoy the.
Absolutely.
there you go. There you go.
Well,
Well,
awesome.
everybody, we're going to wrap it up for this interview, and we will see you next time. Until next time, happy hanging, everybody.
As we gently sway out of another hammock-filled episode, we want to thank you, our wonderful listeners, for hanging out with us on the Hammock Hangers podcast. We hope that you have found relaxation, inspiration, and a renewed sense of connection to nature through our discussions. Remember to keep that hammock spirit alive in your daily life, whether it's by taking a few moments to unwind in your own backyard oasis or by planning your next hammock adventure in the great outdoors. Embracing the tranquility, embracing the simplicity, and never forget the joy that comes from simply hanging around. Before we part ways, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay up to date with all things hammock related. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search for the Hammock Hangers Podcast. Your support means the world to us, and we can't wait to hang with you again on our next episode. Until then, stay relaxed, stay adventurous, and keep on hanging those hammocks high. From all of us here at the Hammock Hangers Podcast, we wish you peaceful hangs and endless relaxation. Thank you for tuning in. Happy hanging, everyone.